There are multiple reasons gas prices have increased.
You've got strong global growth, especially driven by China and India, so that's a lot of demand right there. Oil in the world is bought and sold in global markets, so what happens in China and India affects us. So when their economies are doing well, or ours is, it drives up the price of oil for everybody. And oil is one of the price of oil is the key determinant of the price of gas, so when oil prices go up, so do gas prices. You throw in that there's a jump in oil prices when the turmoil in the Mideast started a few months ago, so part of it is that as well, but a big chunk of it is also just global demand.
The time of year can have an effect on prices at the pump.
There's actually a fairly strong pattern where oil prices and gasoline prices tend to rise going into the summer months. This is happening earlier than I think is typical, primarily because of what's happening in the Middle East. But there's nothing particularly unusual about oil prices rising like this. We're in the recovery stage of the economy in the United States. Europe's in the recovery stage. China and India are growing strongly. So this is, a rise in oil prices or commodity prices in general is not particularly unusual.
Rafferty described possible scenarios that could lower gas prices.
A couple things could happen. One would be the really bad thing, which is the global economy does poorly, and therefore the demand for oil drops, and so the price of gasoline falls. The other way that you would have prices fall is if we were to just produce more oil. So if we were, whether it's in the United States or elsewhere, or develop alternatives to oil so that the demand for oil decreases, and that brings oil and gasoline prices down. But neither of those things, like finding substitutes for oil or pumping more oils, you can't do a lot of that immediately. Those things take years to develop.
Rafferty says he doesn't see gas prices coming down anytime soon.
As long as it's probably going to rise and fall with the state of the world economy, and as long as the economy is recovering and demand is strong in China and India, and the United States is didn't grow that quickly last quarter, but it's expected to grow about 3% this year, which is pretty average growth. So I wouldn't expect, oil prices to fall as long as the U.S. economy and the large developing economies are growing strongly. The more the economy grows, the more stuff we produce, which means we need oil to transport the goods. We need oil to produce a lot of the goods, whether it's plastic or whatever. So yeah, it's going to drive up demand for it. Rising price of oil and gasoline in and of itself is neither bad nor good. The real question is what's driving it. And from the perspective of the United States, if what's driving it is uncertainty in the Middle East, well, that's bad because that's going to drive up the cost of gasoline and oil, which means, and since we import most of our oil, then that means we're spending more on imported goods, less on domestically produced goods. So that could hurt the United States economy. Likewise, if demand is strong in China and India and that drives up the price, then again we're spending more on imported goods and imported oil, so that's less potentially to spend on domestic goods and services. So there is the potential for a rise in oil prices to hurt the United States economy.